So you've recently started, or you're kind of mid-game in raid, you've leveled up your starter champions, you're doing decent, you're progressing to all this stuff, and here comes pretty much the most important part of the puzzle outside of the champions, and that is artifacts. Like, this is so crucial because you can have the best champions, but if you have bad artifacts, you're gonna have a big problem. And if you do something like me at the start where I really messed up and I just mixed and match, it's gonna cost you a lot. So today I want to talk about what artifact sets you should farm, which are very easy to get, that can really help you push your game. Now, before we get into it, if you somehow found this video and you still haven't started the game, I've got an awesome link in the description. I also got a QR code on the screen. You will get a epic champion Talgar at the start, you will get Ugo once you reach level 15, you'll also get a whole bunch of other perks in between, so check out my link. Artifacts are gonna be pretty confusing. It was super confusing to me because Raid has so many champions, like a ridiculous amount of champions. So I've had a pretty big problem, figuring everything out right when I started. And when you get into the gear sets, you're gonna see that there's like 50 different gear sets. You have no idea what all this means. However, to explain it simply for you, like, there's a bunch of them, but you should focus on a few. One of the most important stats for PvP and PvE is speed. Like, you really need speed. Don't sell speed stuff. You're almost certainly going to need it. Accuracy is also important, and a few more things. So, before we get into it, I want to start with the most important one, and I've got one champion that I've actually equipped with an almost full speed set. Now, this is an absolute garbage speed set, because this is Ravstone. I'm literally just using him for faction wars. He's not really the best of the champions. He's pretty mediocre, as I said, just a faction war thing. However, speed is actually amazing because it gets you, as you can see, you get 24% speed. Now, if you don't really know what speed means, initially I thought it was like how fast your champions are gonna go, but essentially you're gonna get more turns, and if you get more turns, you're gonna do more stuff. So even if you do a lot of damage, but your turns take forever, yeah, that's gonna suck. So you really wanna get speed sets, and also the two kind of like brother and sister sets for the starters is speed and accuracy. Now, I've got this champion that I'm also leveling up for raid, for factions, for faction wars, and she has a full, almost entirely garbage accuracy set. However, it actually does decently because she gets a lot of accuracy. As you may imagine, accuracy is also very important because you can do some damage, you can do poisons, but if you don't have accuracy, higher level bosses or higher level minions are just gonna resist your attacks, so the champion is going to be completely useless. So a lot of champions also need accuracy. Now, how you can get these, as I said, for like faction wars and like this early game stuff, you can just farm this super easily. You just go into the campaign, and as you can see, you can farm in Brutal ideally. Nightmare costs a bit too much to farm, like it's a bit of a problem. Like, you can get better speed sets here, but yeah, it's gonna cost you 18, 16 16 energy. Is gonna be a problem. However, Brutal, you can level up your food champions, and you can also gather a few speed sets. So Palace of Arabia is good for getting speed sets, and you can just like do these a couple times. Just save some garbage gear, you can sell it later on. It's not gonna cost a lot to upgrade. You can put this on your faction war champions or whatever champions you may be using that are not super serious. Like, for the main champions, of course, we're gonna go I mean, as I said, this is accuracy and speed. You can get accuracy here, speed here. However, for the real stuff, you want to go to the Dragon. The Dragon is the best source for early game stuff. As you can see, he drops accuracy, speed, lifesteal, which also get into a bit. Pretty much all these sets are very useful, apart of a few which are kind of niche. However, it's not really that, I mean, Dragon is not really that difficult. You can really get to like stage 8, 9, you can get decent-ish gear. Like, even at stage 7, like, you can almost certainly do that just when you start your account. Like, it's not that difficult. So at first you want to get speed and accuracy. You want to farm the campaign for like the cheap stuff, and then you want to get a bit better gear from farming the Dragon. Also, a huge tip for you guys is, if you're farming like these dungeons, as you can say, as I said, some that I'm gonna mention later, you can also get from Fire Knight's Castle, you can also get from the Ice Golem. However, ideally, because these cost a lot, as you can see, like, this is 14 energy. If you're free to play, this is gonna be pretty costly. Ideally, you wanna do these when you see these drops, like when you go here and it says drop fever. So for example, you see Dragon's Lair and it's gonna drop more of this gear, or Fire Knight's Castle. Like yesterday, there was also a huge event tournament that was going on. Like, this actually finished Fire Knight's tournament, and you can start farming gear because you're gonna get this, like, you're gonna get the gear and you're also gonna get the other stuff. So as you can see, like, I farmed all these sets from the Fire Knight's castle here, and I've also sold like 70% of them, so I farmed a whole lot of gear. So ideally, you want to time it with the events. You also want to time it when there's better drops. Now, another big, which is a lot of people are talking about this is the lifesteal set. Like, if you get a garbage one, like, this lifesteal is gonna be very, very garbage, and it's not gonna do much. So it's very important that you get decent lifesteal gear, and that you also get champions that do decent damage. Here I got the legendary Resin Scarhide. Of course, the lifesteal sets are gonna take quite a bit you need 4 of them to actually make them useful. However, it heals 30% of the damage dealt. Now, what is very important to remember is that in order to heal for the 30% damage dealt, the damage needs to be big. Now, if you're doing garbage damage, if you got a champion that is not good, or if you haven't leveled him up, you don't have the masteries, you don't have good gear that gives you good attack as well, yeah, you're gonna have a problem. Like, the lifesteal gear is gonna be pretty useless. You might as well just go for speed or whatever the champion really needs. So, ideally for the lifesteal, you can also get it from the campaign, but you can also get it from the dragon. So now we're gonna talk about 2 sets from the Fire Knight's castle. I farmed so many of them, so many of these gear sets. I haven't actually fully equipped any character or a main character that I'm using because I'm saving this gear for the others. However, you've got, first of all, you got regeneration. This is one of the top tier sets in the game. This is like an S tier set. It heals you by 15% every turn, and this is very useful for characters if you want to solo things, and also you can kind of synchronize it, or you can use champions that have decent heal, and then you can kind of synchronize it so they're gonna be essentially unkillable, and you can do a whole lot with this gear. However, it's also very important to get good stats and also to get a decent synergy out of the champions. Also, a big thing, if you're recently starting out the game, another very important thing, because you're obviously not gonna have the resources to farm all this gear. Ideally, at first you want to focus on the stats before the actual bonuses, because sometimes if you got good stats on this gear, like with speed and accuracy, ideally you can have boosts that have full speed, you're gonna get better stats than all these actually combined. Like, if you got garbage gear and you get this bonus from a 2-item set, yeah, like it's not gonna be that useful if the gear itself is garbage, and you're also not gonna have all that much gear at your disposal. So ideally, at first you want to get stats over gear, and then don't take it too far. You're gonna have a little bit of a problem, because I've combined some decent stats here, and I've leveled them to level 16 because I didn't know better, so this is gonna cost so much to replace, and also get other for like your main champions. But ideally for the start, and then later on you can actually replace it. Now, while we were talking about these sets, as I said, the regeneration is a very good set. You want this, like, this can be very useful, especially mid-game. This is a bit more of a later game set. However, Savage is actually an amazing set. I've got a few champions that I've had it on. However, I'm waiting for the good gear to equip it on the main champions, and this is essentially ideal for your nuker champions. Now, I haven't equipped this yet. This is Tribune Heracles, my legendary that I'm using for all this stuff. This guy is amazing. Like, he can do so much damage with his second ability. As I said, I messed a lot of things up here, so I gotta fix it up. But for example, Savage would work decently with some of his stuff, because when he hits it, when he does that one single ability, he can ignore 25% of enemy's defense, and he can do even more damage. Now, if you combine this with critical stuff, yeah, this is gonna be a big problem. So I got a few more to talk about. Like, if we're gonna talk about all the sets, this can take forever. However, we got this one, which almost certainly you can get pretty decently early on, and this is an amazing set. So I've got this on Deacon Armstrong. He's my main PvP guy, and he also can be pretty useful for reducing turn meters, and he can also decrease defense. So this is the Perception set. Perception set is essentially like a buffed up, like a mix between the accuracy and the speed set, which are really the 2 main important stats in the game. So you can imagine this would be pretty useful. Now, if you stack all of these and you got decent stats on them, this can be pretty good. Like, you can get 120 accuracy, you can get 15 speed, so this can be pretty good. Ideally, I wouldn't put this on Deacon. Like, he needs speed more. I didn't really have the gear, so speed would work a little bit better for him. However, the amazing thing about Perception is that you can very easily craft it. Like this 5 to 6 star is gonna cost a bit more. You're gonna need a bit more advanced teams to go through the faction wars. However, this 3 to 4 stuff you can easily get. You can get this from faction wars, you can get this from the classic arena. So if you're just playing the faction wars like with only a few champions, and if you're doing the arena dailies to get the energy, you can very easily craft these sets. 3 to 4 stars can be pretty decent, 4 to 5 can also be pretty decent. So this set can actually be amazing, and it is really one of the best sets in the game. It's very cheap to make, and it can be pretty useful. Now, the last set that I want to talk about, and this is not exactly your starter set, something you really want at the start, but this is one of those sets where I had really no idea what it means, and then I've realized how good it can be. So this is like one of those sets that just keep one, get one, store it, because you are gonna need it. I was having trouble with this Scarab King guy in Doom Tower. There's nothing I could do to him because he has this max HP set, so he was giving me a lot of trouble. And I've realized that you can equip one pretty decent, like, nuke-ish champion with this Destroy set, and he's gonna mess up with his shield. So right now I've built the Armiger, which is an uncommon, really the best uncommon in the game. I've equipped him with a pretty decent-ish Destroy set, and he can essentially just chuck away at his shield. He can do quite a bit of decent damage. See, with this Scarab King boss here, he has this max HP, which is very unique. Like, this is a situation you're only gonna run into a few occasions. But if you don't have a guy that can destroy max HP, luckily I got Tribune Heracles that can do damage. But if you don't have one, like if you don't have someone in Destroy gear, you're gonna have a big problem. You're never gonna get past this guy. So ideally, as you can see, he does this. Now the good thing about the Armiger is like if he has decentish speed, this guy is gonna provoke him. So he's gonna cause him to actually attack him with his A1. And every time he attacks him with his A1, he's gonna do damage, and he's gonna mess up his max HP shield. So as you can see here, he just chucks away at it, and then we can do pretty decent damage, and we can get rid of this guy. So for this Destroy set is very useful. Just save it, like don't farm it. You don't really need it for all this stuff, but just save it up because it can be pretty useful in occasions like this. You just want to build one champion to get through a boss like this. So ideally, these are just some of the sets that you want to get early game. A lot of them can be useful, a lot of sets are situational, so sometimes you need a character that can be used for one thing, but the ones that I mentioned at the start are going to be pretty versatile. They're going to help you get to mid game, they're going to help you get out of all this early game grind, because really the early game is the hardest until you get your champions up. Now, if you haven't started a game yet, you can do so with my link in the description or the QR code that you can see on the screen. You will get Taogari at level 15, you will get Ugo, so this can be pretty useful. You really want to start like this, and you're also gonna get a bunch of XP brews and all these perks. So check out my link in the description or just scan the QR code, and also subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and let me know what else you would like to see.